afternoon. It's a new day, right? It's a new day. So you woke up this morning, you thought it was Wednesday, right? But really what I'm here to tell you is that it's a brand new day. Everything is changing. Everything is changing around you, and you're probably asking yourself, WTF, right? What's the future, right? I knew you were. Okay. So you've heard a lot about the fourth industrial revolution, and I am like the last person on stage, so you're all experts, I'm sure, by now. You all know exactly what's going on. I'm sure everybody had the same definition. There was no conflicts of interest. Everybody was like right on point. Yes? Maybe? It's so critical for you to understand that the world is changing, and it is up to us to figure out the solution. There is no playbook. There is no weather network, no place that's going to give you the forecast of how to survive it all, how to thrive in this day and age. And so it's for me, when I think about the fourth industrial revolution, I think about interconnectivity. I think about flexible, autonomous vehicles. I think about 5G. I think about AI. You name it. There are so many different things that are going on, and they all have to come together. That flexibility is so key. And so if you think about all the different voices that you hear out there, you are hearing some voices of people who are totally for it. They agree, they're supportive. And then you've got other people who are saying, hey, this stuff is evil. We've got to watch ourselves. And so you have to figure out now, where are you going to play in this? How do you fit in? What does the solutions look like to you? Because there's a lot of opinions out there. And what I've been able to discern is that there's actually no experts. Everybody is on that journey. And how you get the answer is not through looking at a guide, talking to one person, is actually through experimentation. When you listen to Ginny, she was very, very positive about it. She said, don't call it artificial intelligence, call it augmentation. It's an augmentation of our intelligence. Very, very different points of view. Really, really bad, really, really good, maybe somewhere in the middle, but the change is happening and it's coming at us faster than ever. So this is the BMO Brilliance Bar. We launched our Brilliance Bar, and it is a place where internal people can come because they have an issue with some form of technology and they want some support. But it's also a place of learning. It is a place where we invite folks like Apple. We invite folks like Microsoft. We invite folks like Cisco. We invite folks from across the globe to say, come here and be an expert and help our people out with things that are on their minds. And sometimes it's not always something specific to work. It could be something that you're grappling with at home. So we've put programming in place so that our employees can go to a space. And we are experimenting with this. We have one Brilliance Bar. And if I'm here next year, we'll probably have 3 Brilliance Bars. But we're trying to get the learning and go into that continuous improvement journey. So if you think about your world and what you're doing, are you doing any experimentation? What are you doing to prepare for the future? When you think about that hologram that you're seeing over there, is this person walking in a data center, or is this a hallway of the future? We can't predict, but we can think, and we can experiment, and we can learn, and we can share. And why I'm so pleased about this day today is the work that Yvonne and Alucci and the entire team, the Mars team, have pulled off, because it is so critical that we don't work in silos. We don't work in the 4 walls of our own building. We have to share. We have to collaborate. We have to co-create. So last year I was here and I talked about a ton of things. Data is the new oil. We talked about speed is the new water. Old jobs are gone. New jobs are back. We were just talking about all kinds of things, like data scientists. Is there anybody in the room who doesn't have a data scientist at their company? If I asked you that 7 years ago, did you have a data scientist at your company? Everybody who had one, put your hands up. One table over there. We've got to talk to you guys. There are going to be new jobs that get created. I think everybody who came here today may have shared with you about new roles that exist in their organizations. I think we should be focused less on the jobs and more on the opportunity, because I see tons of opportunities opening up. And I'm spending some time in the schools I was at a conference last week. It was a Connect conference. It was about education and technology and the marriage of those two things. And I got to learn what they're training our kids on today. And I have to tell you that there wasn't an aisle that didn't have a robot at this conference, which I think was over 100,000 square feet. Every aisle. These are all different companies, different schools, different learning organizations. And so I know folks are struggling with, these robots, are they coming to take over? What's their role? What's our role? But I'll tell you that people 20 years younger than us, 30 years younger than us, they're in school and they're learning about how to program these robots, how to design these robots, what problems they can solve. And so I don't think we should be resisting the fact that these things exist. I think we should be looking for new ways of how to integrate them and to help us solve our problems. So there's this whole thought of it's man against machine. And if you check out that hologram over there, you're going to see an image that looks like the movies, Terminator, those really scary movies, you know, where it's trying to instill some fear around robots and RoboCop. You name all those different movies. But is it about fear or is it about freedom? Will we have these robots doing things that are going to help us? Will we be working alongside the robot as opposed to the robot replacing you? Is it man versus machine or human versus human and machine versus problem? I touched a little bit on the Internet of Things last year as well. We're going to go a little deep because I wanted to share not kind of conceptual things that, you know, wouldn't it be great if somebody could do this? I wanted to share what we're doing. So you have a good example of what's working, and I want to share our learnings because we are learning. It doesn't mean everything is perfect. So on AI and robotics, we started experimenting with robots. One of our early experiments was we took it to a university and we put our jobs on the robot, what jobs were available. And we gave students the ability to just do the QR code, and they got a list of the jobs, and they were able to apply right there online. That was one of the first iterations of our experience with robots. And what I can say is we saw such a lift in applicants through that kind of channel because, one, many of them had never seen a robot, and two, never knew what the business value was of having a robot. So that is one scenario for us. When we launched our Brilliance Bar, the robot was around playing videos, answering questions, but so were the humans. So it wasn't a replace, there was a side-by-side. Events, different opportunities to use it. So we wanted to highlight that what we learned about the robots were interesting. From an industry perspective, $15.7 trillion is going to be added to the economy by 2030 because of robotics. We use it for recruitment. I mentioned we use it for events. We used it and put product on it just to see what would happen. A web app that we run online, we put it on the robot and started selling product on the robot. So in a market where we had nobody there, we tested this out, and things you could buy online, the robot was doing that for us. That was a great insight. And again, these are things we're piloting, and we're testing, and we're learning. So one of the things I want to share from our personal experience in the learning is you can engage with these robots, and they have many different capabilities. It's not just this cool thing in the movie. You can derive business value from it. We also found that branding deepened the connection. So when we didn't put a name on the robot, or we didn't say what company the robot was from, people were not as engaged. But then I got my own robot, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I'm branded Rafiki, and now people say, hey, Claudette, how's Rafiki? I'm like, pretty good. It now has a personality. And there's a lot of thought about, hey, are the robots female? Are they male? Are they androgynous? The robot is what you want it to be. And so that branding we thought was really interesting. But we're seeing the opportunity to use these in different ways. And I, again, encourage you all to experiment. Mixed reality. How are we using mixed reality? Well, I can tell you my 15-year-old is using it quite frequently. And it's for gaming. So who has gaming in their company? This is the interactive part, guys. Who is gaming at their company? Show of hands. No one is gaming? And allowed to game. Sorry, I should be clear. Yes? Okay, all right. 2 hands go up in the room. So I am not necessarily endorsing using this for gaming, but we are using this, and we're using it for things like orientation. So 120 million VR and AR headsets are going to be purchased by 2022. This is an endpoint. We found opportunities to take things that are on our trade floor and put them on the VR and the mixed reality unit. And we also have our smart branch. So people didn't know what the smart branch was. We had a few of them. We were experimenting with it. So we put the smart branch on the Microsoft HoloLens. And so if you've never even been to a smart branch before, by putting on the HoloLens, you can see and learn exactly what it's all about. Okay.
We cannot project now, but the full smart branch is here on Microsoft. So people can interact completely using mixed reality to understand BMO smart branch.
Excellent. Thank you, Rami.
Thank you.
The next thing I wanted to touch on is the Internet of Things. So when you think about the Internet of Things, what does this mean to all of you? We're thinking about sensors. We're thinking about things like power over Ethernet lighting. And so for us, sometimes at your home, you might have a pathway, and when you walk in there, the lights go on because it knows you're there. It's sensing your motion. We also have different types of sensors that actually can sense the heat signature and say, hey, it's not just motion, but there's multiple people in this room, multiple people in this space. Yes. We have put some sensors on some of the front row tables here, and you're seeing a point of view. We put it on 2 tables. And what we found is it wasn't just counting the person, it's also looking for motion. So I came and I saw somebody sitting, but they weren't moving. And then they moved, and then it went orange. So come on, guys, where's the energy? So why do you want to know who's sitting in what chair? Why do you want to know who's sitting at what table? Well, imagine if you're accountable for a building, and you need to know who's on what floor. Or today you just want to do heads down work. Everybody's doing all this collaboration stuff in open spaces, but today you want to be in a quiet space. So you see where everyone is, and now you're able to now pick where you want to sit, do what you want to do, and this is just the one that is tracking motion. So if it's your table, it's like I feel there's some kind of foot action underneath the table, or if it's the chair, it's because you're now sitting on the chair and it felt that there was an impression on the chair. Decisions are being made. Purchasing decisions are being made. Space decisions are being made. Really, really important for us to think about by the time this year is over, 26 billion connected devices will be up, will be functioning. And we're connecting things like our lights. We're connecting things like our car. We're connecting things like our home, our building. They're playing a big role in helping us not just to know who's doing what, feeding it into your AI engines and pulling out insights so you can make better decisions for your organizations. So as change management professionals, these things are big. They're happening right now. How are you educating yourself? How are you getting ready for that next wave? How are you going to help companies go from good to great, great to phenomenal? These sensors are everywhere. If the chairs are getting smart and the buildings are getting smart and the cities are getting smart, we have to get smart too. So we're seeing this for resource optimization, integrated insights, and empowerment. It is empowering businesses to make better decisions. So the workplace is changing. We all acknowledge that. The way we work is changing, and who we work with is changing. And so if you ask me, well, what's my advice to everybody? What do we recommend that you do? I would say, 1, get educated. Being here today is very powerful. This is an investment in your time and in your learning. Get organized. Build teams. And you don't have to have the company to build a team. Build an unofficial team. Create a meetup group. Facebook group. Get in a social space and share with people worldwide. I have people I collaborate with all over the world, and I've never met them. But we share interests. So you can organize physically or you can organize virtually. And then the last thing I would say is get started. Because There's a lot of people who have great ideas, but they have a problem with execution. And when I think about the work that you guys do and what you're here for, it is all about execution. So when you ask me what today is or why I'm so excited and why it's always a pleasure to be here, it's because today, for me, is a new day. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudette. We have time for a few questions, if there might be any questions for Claudette.
Hi.
Can you elaborate more about holograms and how they differ from the workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. But what we've found is that they are an immersive way for learning. So they talk about video. So imagine video, but now seeing things kind of just suspended in the air. Everything about learning is about engagement. So for us, we're finding that using new ways of engaging people is where we want to be. I would say that the work that we're doing on the HoloLens right now around training people for onboarding, so your orientation, not sitting in a room and just being spoken to or a webinar, but actually going into a virtual space and say, hey, these are your leaders. This is the new place where you're going to work. Here's what your desk looks like. That's the kind of thing that we think you can bring people to the space before they even get to the space. So we're using it for things like onboarding, but there's multiple use cases for the holograms. Thank you.
One over here.
You mentioned on a slide just previously about resource optimization. Is that, and with all this monitoring, I think one of my favorite genres is post-apocalyptic dystopian reality,
Yes, of
right?
course,
So
yeah.
AI and all these other movies. And when I see resource optimization, I see code for I'm going to be monitored on my performance,
Yeah.
and this could be about right sizing, downsizing, and things like that. Is that code for
That's a
head
great
count?
question, and it's not code. It's just what it means. So I think where you're going is maybe people resources. I'm thinking about space resources. So we're building an urban campus above the Eaton Center, and we have to think about how do we use the space wisely, and what type of work are people going to do, and what kind of solutions you have to have in place. And so understanding how they work today helps us to now design new spaces that really enable and empower them. And even getting their feedback on things like open space versus heads down collaborative space. If you remember university or college, there was a quiet room, there was a library, you could study, you can do things. So as much as we want to have open and collaborative space, you need space for people to do their heads down, quiet, focused work. But thank you for the question.
One final question.
How do you encourage a culture of experimentation?
Yeah, what I found, a lot of it comes from the top down, but it also comes from the bottom up. And so first of all, I'd ask you to look at your leaders and say, do they support this? And if the answer is yes, then like, how do you get that and amplify that message so everybody knows it's safe to experiment? You know, you hear a lot about fail fast, but there's people who worry about, well, if I make a mistake, you know, does that mean it's the end of my role? And so the culture is really, really critical in understanding the thoughts, you know, where the heart and the mind of your leader is very critical. But also now making sure that you give people all the tools they need to do that type of experimentation. We have something called the Innovation Fund. Any employee can put their idea in. And if the idea is measured and, I guess, assessed to say this will add a lot of value, that employee can now be removed from the role that they're doing today and lead the work or be a part of the work and move that forward. And so when I talk about experimentation, it's not just something we say. You could be one of the most junior employees, a mid-tier leader, come up with something great and get the support, not just the people saying go for it, but also the dollars to do it. And so I look to the culture and what's in place to do that. Okay.
If there's a final note that you'd like to leave the audience with.
Yeah, I think the work you guys are doing is amazing. The fact that you're taking on something that usually people run away from, which is change, and you're embracing it and helping people make things happen in a time where we don't know the answers. I said earlier, there's no playbook, there's no weather forecast. So I commend you all for what you're doing, And I also ask you to find opportunities to collaborate, to co-create, because this room, a lot of awesome things can happen if you guys connect and take this conversation from here to wherever is possible. So thank you very much.